Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to say something I don't come to this microphone and say very often, but I could not agree more with my colleague from the 38th District. The issue of prevailing wage has been around in this country for over 100 years. Kansas passed their prevailing wage law in 1891. The federal government didn't follow with the Davis-Bacon Act, which is the federal prevailing wage act, until 40 years later in 1931. This is a policy that has stood the test of time, has meant the difference in worker quality, in projects coming in on budget, being safe for folks, and I completely agree with the senator from the 38th District that this kind of repeal of a program that has lasted so long in this state and many other states deserves better consideration than we gave it yesterday. Folks were asked to limit their testimony. Lots of folks were in the room that did not get a chance to testify, and I do give a lot of credit to the chair of the committee that heard it for making sure that both sides of the argument were heard in Michigan Competitiveness Committee, and I do appreciate that. But there were many more voices that were not heard. There was many follow-up questions that were not able to be asked. And the biggest concern that I have is the entire conversation, in my estimation, is built on a false premise. It's built on the false premise that somehow we're going to save hundreds of millions of dollars of taxpayer money by doing away with this policy. And in fact, there is no modern, academically rigorous, peer-reviewed study that shows that that is true, not one. And the one study that gets quoted often, there are three that are built from that one, but the one that gets studied most often and used by folks who are proponents of this repeal has been so soundly refuted. And yet we still keep throwing it about like there's somehow magical hundreds of millions of dollars that will be saved if we repeal prevailing wage. All of the current studies that are held up as academically rigorous, that were done in academic institutions, not paid for by either side of this debate with someone with some goal and outcome to be focused on, say that passing repeals of prevailing wage laws show no savings to the taxpayers overall because they don't drive up the cost of the contract. Prevailing wage laws do not drive up the cost of construction contracts, period. The states that have made the decision to repeal their prevailing wage laws, and there have been 9, and researchers have spent some time in those states to find out what the outcomes were, consistently show some really important things that I think we cannot undervalue as we look at a policy like this. Those 9 states show increased worker injury, increased worker death. The quality of workmanship goes down when you repeal prevailing wage laws. They show more cost overruns, more change orders, more problems in the construction. And they show a decrease in worker training and apprenticeship programs. One of the things that is a benefit in prevailing wage states is we have some of the best trained tradesmen and women in the country that work in these states, funded, an apprenticeship program funded solely through the support of those industries, their workers, not asking for taxpayer money, an apprenticeship program that they fund themselves. So making this decision today, if this is the decision of this body to repeal our prevailing wage law, I can guarantee you a few years down the road, somebody will be doing a case study on Michigan, and they will write the story that we have higher costs, more worker injuries, more worker deaths, less quality construction if we make this decision, because that's what every other state has borne out. So we encourage my colleagues to vote no on this bill before us, and in fact the entire package. Prevailing wage works. It's what gives us quality construction. It's what gives us quality wages for quality days work by the tradespeople that built this state literally and continue to do so every day. And I ask that my remarks be printed in today's journal as my no vote explanation. Thank you, Mr. President.